What's up, Marvel fans? This is Dan Series, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing the spoiler review for Captain Mar-Vell. And first off to say, wow, it's an amazing film for a first female MCU film, and it's really pretty good. And I do recommend you go and watch it immediately because it is pretty good. So, before we get into it, if you don't want to know any spoilers from the film, leave now, and then when you see it, come back here. And bits I will only be touched on will be some more like important stuff really, so I ain't gonna try and make it this long, so let's get started then. So we start off with Captain Mar-Vell when it looks like she's having a dream of the day she got her powers. So we see the jet explode, or pieces explode, we see a Skrull, we see a woman, and then we wake up with her waking up and we see her on the Kree's planet, Halo, I think you said the name again, the H-A-L-A. Yeah, that planet. Then we get to introduce of Yon-Rogg, and yes, Jubilee is Yon-Rogg, so yeah, is him. And first off, when they do some training, and then later they start heading to the Supreme Intelligence, and Mar-Vell, Captain Mar-Vell enters in this kind of this weird wiry device thing that can get her connected to the super intelligence. So it's like, yes, the super intelligence, it sounds like it's still it's not a living walking being, it's like kind of network thing, so it's like that. But then part of the discussion when Captain Mar-Vell talking with the Supreme Intelligence, they talk about, the day we found you and all that. It also explains that when you go and see the super intelligence, you see the person you admired the most. So for Carol, it was like seeing a woman that she can't recognize. So there was that, but we'll get back to that in a bit. But after that, the super intelligence says she's fit to go to on the mission with the Star Force, Yon-Rogg's team. So that gets approved. So we see her going on the mission with, Yon-Rogg, and then we got Dr. Mafaris. Well, that's one of the members, the female one. We got Captain Asia. Something like that. You'll see it in the list down below. You see the names. And also the big muscly guy as well. And also Ronan's, helper, Qualman. You know who I'm on about. And their mission is they got to head to this planet to rescue a Kree who's been being a spy on this one planet for quite some years. And what's happened is the Skrulls, it looks like they figured out, that it's it's a Kree. Once they get there, they believe that, it's all right, but then they realise the alien species on the planet are not the aliens, it's the Skrulls. And they start having a fight with all of them. Captain Mar-Vell finds the Kree, but then when she noticed something what the Kree said, and then she realised, it's a Skrull, and it's Talos. Yeah, the leader of the Skrulls. And they get her, and they kidnap her. And they place her into this device to look into her memories, because they're trying to look for a scientist, and it's a woman. And they find out the name, they find out the planet, but luckily Captain Mar-Vell got out of the thing and started fighting the whole Kree and everything. Not the Skrulls and everything. Then she releases her kind of binary powers, and it destroys a bit of a ship, and some of the Skrulls get killed, but luckily she goes out of it. Then she escapes in an escape pod, and from getting out of it, the whole Skrull ship gets destroyed, and she crash lands on Earth. And now what she's trying to do now is she's trying to find a way to communicate with the Star Force group. Meanwhile, with that, we see that Talos and some of the Skrulls survived the explosion, and now they're on Earth, and they've took a human form for the first time as a disguise. When it comes back to Captain Mar-Vell, and she eventually does get in touch with Yon-Rogg, we get the introduction of Nick Fury and Coulson and some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. They have a bit of a discussion and all that, but then they get interrupted by a Skrull, and the big chase starts. So she goes after the Skrull and through the train and everything, and with Coulson and Nick driving to try to catch her up. And in the car, Nick noticed something funny with Coulson, and then you find out, from a phone call, he noticed that Coulson's calling him, and he realised, hang on, who's this Coulson with me then? And he finds out it's a Skrull. So eventually, Carol like stops the loses the Skrull like on the train. Once the train stopped, loses tracks of it. When it comes back to Nick Fury, he takes the dead Skrull body back to base, which when we get introduced to the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Keller, I think that's his name, is Keller, which we all know who that person is. We all know that's Talos in disguise, and it is at that point. So, and then Nick gets some orders from him, from Skrull, he doesn't realise, saying to go and find her. So, Carol starts noticing a bit of a memory back a bit, and notices there's a bar she used to go to, so she goes there. When she's there, she bumps into Nick Fury, and they have a bit of a discussion, and all that. Like she explains the Skrulls, and she even does a test on him to see if he's a Skrull, but luckily that passes. Then also as well, she's trying to find an Air Force place where, obviously at the point she doesn't know that she used to be there. So Nick Fury says, hang on, we can head to my S.H.I.E.L.D. base because we'll have the file what happened on that day and all that, the incident. So they go there, and on the way to the fire bed, they meet up with Goose, the cat. So yeah, the cat is there. Then when they get to the files, they look through the files, they look through if they can find it, and they do find the news, the stuff and all about the crash on that day, apparently what it was, they were saying they was testing out of a new jet engine, so apparently that's what was going on, but more of it was missing out. But Carol did notice something like from the info, and she started getting more memories back, and eventually she got back in touch with Yon-Rogg again, and she's saying about, I'm learning about more of my past, and he's like, no, don't learn more about your past, all that kind of thing. But in the meanwhile, Talos, disguised as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., comes to the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and he's with Nick, and what it is, he says Nicholas, and earlier in the film, Nick Fury says, I like people calling me Fury. So Fury obviously discovers that, hang on, that ain't my director, that's a Skrull. So he distracts him, like sending him to the wrong level, and he gets back to Carol, but sadly she's gone, and he gets, surrounded by some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, sort of like that, and then Talos has a fight with him. Luckily, Carol comes back to save him, and they get out of there. They get bumped to Coulson, but Coulson realised that I should trust her, so that happens. And then Nick and Captain Mar-Vell escape through the Quinjet, also with a stowaway, Goose the cat. So that happens. So then they realised that the only way to discover what happened in the past was to meet up with Carol's old friend. It was the jet partner of hers, a friend of hers, Minerva. The lady I've been on about. She's the mother to the daughter who will become a superhero as well. Which that's where we see the daughter as well. Then those two actually get surprised to see Carol, because I'm like, hang on, we all thought you was dead 6 years ago. Yeah, so that's the thing as well. The incident of this took place 6 years ago, and they were like all shocked about it. Also, they did some catching up and all that. Then, surprisingly, Talos and some of the Skrulls come by, and they feel like, oh, this is going to end up badly, but they goes like, no, listen to us and all that. We need to talk and all that. And also, then at the point, he just revealed to them that, oh, why you got that cat? You do realise that's an alien, don't you? Like that kind of thing. But he says, part of the discussion, he says, I've got the black box from the jet on the day of the accident, and they surprised because they all thought it was destroyed. So Talos shows the message to, the video to her, and what happened was, it turns out on the day of the incident, we find out that the doctor woman who was involved with all this as well, and who was Carol's kind of friend and mentor, Carol realised that that's her name, Dr. Wilden Lawson, I think that's what Mar-Vell's name was. Yes, that was the thing. That's a surprise twist. Turns out that is Captain Mar-Vell. So yeah, Captain Mar-Vell is a female in this universe, before I say that. And thing is, she tells Carol when this test jet was crashed, said, you got to destroy the engine before they get it. Before she said who, she gets shot. And then we find out, all this time, it wasn't a Skrull that got involved on the day. It was Yon-Rogg. And we learned that Yon-Rogg, we learn on the day that it looks like the Kree are the actual 4 bad guys. I mean, we all know they're bad guys, but obviously for the film, that's the surprise bit for some fans. And they came for the engine thing, but what happened is Carol shoots the engine and the stuff enters inside of her. So that's how she got her powers, from an engine. But what was in the engine, I will explain that later. So after finding out, she starts to remember all of that, and she realised, oh my god, the Kree took me and they used, white memory me so they can use me. And also, you learn as well that these Skrulls, are the bad guys. So, yeah, that's a shock on that one. Then after discussing all that, they all discuss, what are we going to do, and all that. But Carol does bring up about, hang on that day, we were supposed to be heading to a lair, but it was gone. But the terrorists, the Skrulls said, no, there is a base she had. They said that Mar-Vell had a lab. And then, what it is, they find out it's in atmosphere, so that's a good part. So they all start going to the atmosphere. So Nick joins her, also Talos, and also Carol's friend. And then also on the way, the young daughter, before Captain Marvel goes, they change her uniform from a device on her arm, and it could change the suit's colour. So that's pretty cool. That's how she gets the colour we all know. So they head off to find the ship. But on the meantime, we notice that Yon-Rogg and the group are on the way to Earth, and Walden also contacts. That's when we get introduced to him, and he says, I'll bring my forces. And Yon-Rogg like, no, we can handle this and all that. So back with the Carol and the group, they find Captain Mar-Vell's ship. They enter inside, and at this one bit, they find a weird energy source. And then, what is it? It's the Tesseract. So, yeah. So it turns out the energy core, which also says that that's the energy core, it's the Tesseract, the Space Stone, which also tells you that Carol, her powers come from the Space Stone. So how cool is that? But at the meantime, when they find it, well, they gaze on it, they notice there are some Skrulls on the ship, and Tara goes like, no, she's with us, and we get to introduce of his wife and child, and it was lovely. And that's when she fully realised that, oh my god, they're not really, these ones ain't the bad guys, they really are good guys. And then the one Skrull woman who's married to Talos, I'm sorry if I'm saying that Skrull's name wrong, she says, Mar-Vell told us to come here and says never to communicate with anyone, so that explains why they never moved their ship for ages. But then, sad part happens next is Yon-Rogg and the Kree soldiers and his group come and they get them, and also Captain Marvel, and they get her to talk to the Supreme Intelligence again. And luckily, she gets out of it and she fully releases her binary powers. She couldn't earlier because of a device on her neck, so they could control to turn her powers on or off. So she gets out and she has a fight with the Kree, and also fights Yon-Rogg and the group. Meanwhile, with Nick Fury and Captain Marvel's friend, they also escape as well and have a fight. And then the cat reveals his true form and opens his mouth with tentacles, and Nick Fury's like shocked and all that. So they manage to fight back, but then, well, when the Skrulls come by and they're behind the Kree, and the Nick Fury with the cat trying to get him to fight back, but doesn't go well, so they get caught. That goes with the Tesseract. The thing is, the Tesseract, well, the surprising is the cat eats the Tesseract. So yeah, the cat's got the Tesseract, the Space Stone, inside of him. But then when Nick and the woman get caught by the Kree, and also with the Skrulls got caught by them as well, the one Kree turns out to be Talbot, so he shoots the Kree, and they get up. The Skrulls and Nick and the woman and the cat, they all get onto the Quinjet. And with Captain Marvel, she's having a fight with Yon-Rogg. So after she defeats the group, she has a fight with him. Then the fight takes more onto Earth, but also with with Ronan, and then Ronan comes by and he's Accusers, so they come by. So before she carries on fighting with Yon-Rogg, she deals with Ronan and the Accusers. So she stops the missiles and stops some of the ships. Then obviously Ronan realizes what's going on. He retreats and he says, "We'll come back for the power source," all that. So it was kind of like we haven't seen the end of him, but I don't know how that's going to work on that one. I don't know how that will work. But anyway, back with Nick Fury, they're getting chased by Dr. Minerva, the sniper Kree woman. But luckily, they get away with her, so she's dead, and we're not going to see the comic book version of her when she gets the power to turn into, like, this dragon creature, so that's sad on that. But then, Captain Marvel finds Yon-Rogg, and they're about to have a fight, and he was about to do a fist fight with her, but then she used her binary and blasts him away. But he doesn't get killed, so what happens, the way that part is, she puts him back into his ship, sets the coordinates back to the Kree planet, and she says, tell the Supreme that I'm going to end this war. Fighting the Kree, obviously, from that. So then he's gone. And then with the victory, all that, Nick Fury's got the cat by him. And as a surprise, the cat scratched his eye. So yes, that's how Nick lost his eye. By the cat. So back at the woman's home, Captain Marvel's friend, back to her house. All the Skrulls are there just having to relax, and Talbot saying thank you for all that, and all of it. And also, I thought I'd been so quick here, I nearly forgot about that. The reason part of it as well was because the engine pod, what Mar-Vell was working on, it was a way to help the Skrulls to find a planet, like to get away from the Kree, was to kind of like to move into space quick. So they were like, that's why we need your help and all that. So I thought I'd bring that up. Then Carol and Nick Fury have a talk, and then surprisingly, Carol upgrades Nick Fury's pager, the device he was using out in the film as well. And it turns out she takes a bit from her suit and places into the thing, so that's why he looks like that. And she says, if you ever need it, like really need me, call me. Because that explains how she gets the signal now. When she gets it, it'll be like on her suit that she'll pick the signal up. So Nick was like, okay. So then Carol has to go, to help the Skrulls, to find them a home. And they were all using Mar-Vell's ship. So she says goodbye to everyone before she goes. And then she flies off to space with the jacket. So she's got her jacket with her. Then the next day we see Nick Fury, we're now like a form of an eye patch, but it's like a first stage of it. And we see Coulson coming in saying about, like, what's happened to the Tesseract. And there's like, don't worry, we'll find it. It might pop in someday. And then Nick Fury was like typing in some kind of like the project initiative. And then Coulson's like, are you going to try and, what are we going to do now? And Nick Fury's like, we're going to try and find more people like her. So he's like, I see where this is building up to. But then before, he looked at Carol's jet ship, before she became Captain Marvel. He noticed that the word Avenger was on there. So, and then he changed the word project to, not projects or whatever it was called, and changes the word to Avenger. So, that's where the Avengers Initiative came from. Well, really he just types in Avengers. So, he just thought to put the S in the end, so that's cool. Last bit we see of the film, we see her in space with Mar-Vell's ship and the Skrulls in it, and they're all about to go off, and they do. They fly into space. So, that's part of the film. Now, let's talk about the 2 credit scenes. So, first off, we jump to the Endgame one. So, we see the device blinking and everything, the page of thing, and then it goes off. But then we jump to Captain America and Black Widow looking at it's like a hologram of the Earth, and you're seeing that the numbers of missing people, like dust people, growing. And they're like, this is like a nightmare and all that. And then Banner comes by saying, you guys need to come, the thing just stopped beeping. Then also we see War Machine there as well saying, it stopped and all that. And then Black Widow says, there's a reason why Nick Fury had that. And then she says, if you ever find out who we were sending it to, let me know quick. But then when she turns around, she sees Captain Marvel in a newer uniform, and then she says, where's Fury? So he's like, she doesn't know what's happened to him. So that's the first one. Now the second one, back to 1995, yes, that's what I forgot to say as well. The film is set in 1995. Back to that time, we see Goose jumping into Fury's off desk. And then we see him coughing up like cats do. And then what happens is he spits out the Tesseract. So that must explain how Nick Fury gets the Tesseract back. The cat swallows it out. It's on his desk. And he's like, what goes on my desk? The Tesseract. We'll take it to the base where it was in Avengers 1. So, yeah. So that's really interesting. So, bits I'm surprised about, like Mar-Vell being a woman, but that's okay with me. Skrulls being good guys, that's interesting. And I like the origin of Captain Marvel's new origin. It still sort of does involve Mar-Vell, but it's not like gives blood to her. It's like her invention, what she was using with the Tesseract for, gave her the powers. But then also as well, that brings another question. How does somehow Howard Starr give it to Mar-Vell and like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do another video, like the Easter egg and everything, so I'll get into more about that. So, yeah, that's the whole film in it. So, I'm sorry if I've missed some bits out. I said I didn't want to make it like a half an hour and an hour kind of video. I wanted to get around 20 minutes kind of thing. So, sorry if I did have missed some stuff out, but when you see it, you'll be like more surprised, like you didn't see this bit coming, whatever I didn't bring up. So, I hope you did enjoy this. So, as I said, well, actually, that's coming to the end of this video now. Oh, sorry, I'm mumbling the words. So, anyway, if you have seen the film, leave your comments down below. So, what did you think of it? Like, did you enjoy the film? What was you surprised at? Was you surprised that the Space Stone was in it? And also, bring up the credit scenes. Like, what was you surprised about them, or was you expecting something different? Bring up whatever from the film, because I would love to discuss this stuff with you. Also, give this video a thumbs up. Share this out to your friends, so if they want to see a new YouTuber, discussing Marvel or Transformers, show me, and then if they like it, they can subscribe to the channel. And if you are new to this channel, this is what I do. I do Marvel and Transformers Cinematic Universe news. I just do the reactions to trailers, Super Bowl TV spots, clips, and then obviously what I'm done now, I spoiler review. I don't do the spoilery trailer clips, reaction ones, because I don't want to be spoiled when it comes to a film. And then, as I said, with spoiler reviews, I only do this film side of Marvel and the Transformers, so there's that. And last, before I go, you want to jump to my last Marvel video, click here, my channel. Make sure you click the bell, so you can be notified when new videos are up. And here to see my last Transformers video. So, that's really, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed this spoiler video. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon. Peace.